The Art Institute of Chicago has been a symbol of the city since 1879. Now, it's receiving its largest makeover yet. A Barcelona architectural firm was hired to create a transformational master plan for the museum's next 5, 10, and 15 years. But there's no need to worry about the green lions here on Michigan Avenue. The museum says they're here to stay. Chicagoans can rejoice this fall because the city's first Krispy Kreme in 14 years has opened here at Block 37. We went inside to get a few treats ourselves, and the line stretched around the block, though for good reason. Oh yeah, worth it. Beachgoers this summer season discovered an absence of several normally accessible beaches and lakefronts across the region. As you can see behind me, record-high water levels have swallowed up concrete steps that were visible just months ago. Now scientists predict that 2020 may be even worse here in Chicago. Federal authorities released a 59-page indictment yesterday afternoon charging 14th Ward Alderman Ed Burke with 14 counts of corruption. Burke has pled not guilty and is expected to return here to federal court this January. Mayor Lori Lightfoot's communication director is officially out. Marielle Sanvelis resigned earlier this afternoon after facing criticism for slow media response times. The resignation came just 2 weeks shy of Lightfoot's first 100 days in office. City Hall also announced hours later that Michael Crawley, Chief of Staff at After School Matters, will serve as Sanvelis' replacement starting Monday. The 1,191-foot Vista Tower will open early next year as Chicago's third tallest building. Boasting its status as the tallest building in the world designed by a woman, the lower floors of the tower will house a hotel, while the upper floors will provide premium residential views of Lake Michigan and the skyline. I'm standing here in front of Lincoln Park High School, where no classes this morning marked the first day of a citywide teachers' strike. Now, yesterday, Mayor Lori Lightfoot decided to close all Chicago public schools amid negotiations with the Chicago Teachers Union. The strike left classrooms empty and parents scrambling to make arrangements for their children. As city officials and union leaders negotiated the teachers' next contract, it left many wondering how we got to this point.
We all would rather be teaching our classes right now, but we feel like this is important for the city to hear that we need real improvements in the schools and we need a just contract settlement.
After months of slow negotiations between the teachers' union and city officials, tensions came to a head the day before the strike. The city's best offer was a 16% average raise on salaries over the next 5 years.
At every turn, we bent over backwards to meet the union's needs and deliver a contract that reflects our shared values and vision for our schools and the support of our students.
The union countered with an average raise of 15% over the next 3 years and guarantees of smaller class sizes and more special education aides in every school, along with more nurses and librarians. Teachers also point to overcrowding in some schools.
I've got an 8th period where I actually have more students than I have desks, and these are freshmen. I have a school and we don't have a full-time nurse. I asked the kids, how many times have you been to the nurse and she's not here? Because she's at other schools.
Mayor Lightfoot's office says the union's demands would cost the city an extra $2.5 billion over the next 5 years, a sum the mayor says the city cannot afford. Over 350,000 students in total were affected by the strikes today, with neither side budging at CTU headquarters to reach a 5-year contract deal. It seems that the strikes will continue. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Jakob Emerson. Thousands of people this evening protested President Donald Trump's first visit to Chicago since the 2016 election. The president spoke at a meeting with police chiefs at McCormick Place this morning and held a 2020 election fundraiser just a few hours ago here at Trump Tower. Speaking with the International Association of Chiefs of Police, President Trump delivered a long speech to the country's police chiefs about an array of topics, most notably the city's crime rates.
It's embarrassing to us as a nation. All over the world, they're talking about Chicago. Afghanistan is a safe place by comparison.
Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson made the decision to skip the speech at McCormick Place. In a release statement, Johnson said, quote, "I look forward to hosting America's police chiefs and collaborating on the best ways to keep our city safe in the upcoming week. However, I will not be attending the president's speech because the values of the people of Chicago are more important than anything he would have to say." Johnson also gave a response after the president's speech, saying that Trump ignored the fact that Chicago has seen a 40% reduction in shootings over the past 3 years.
Today, the same police officers the president criticized for their inability to protect this city spent all day protecting him.
President Trump attended a 2020 election fundraiser later in the afternoon at Trump Tower. The president went on to raise over $4 million, while thousands of protesters marched down Wacker Drive just outside.
This is what democracy looks like.
Trump kinda is not the greatest president in the entire world, so and I'm here to spread awareness about the different ways that you can get involved to combat the Trump's presidency.
President Trump spent about half a day here in Chicago, heading back to Washington late this afternoon. Protests continued in the Loop for a few hours after his departure. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Jakob Emerson. A horrific attack this July left a DePaul graduate in critical condition. On Halstead Avenue, just across the street from the School of Music, is where the grisly scene occurred. On July 18th at about 4 in the morning, Chicago police responded to a call about a young woman lying in a pool of blood.
Chester Wellbeing at Lincoln and Fullerton says they have a female white covered in blood now on the sidewalk in front of the fitness club.
The 22-year-old victim, a recent DePaul Music School graduate, was walking down Halstead when a man attacked her with a knife. The victim, who has asked to remain anonymous, successfully fought off her assailant and ran from the scene. She suffered severe lacerations to her face, neck, and hands. Investigators say they believe the attack was sexually motivated. It's led to concern among some DePaul students.
Because I don't usually go out by myself at night walking around just because of the things that have happened. You never really know.
Chicago police quickly released surveillance footage of the suspect. The video shows 32-year-old Adam Bramwell attempting to steal a car earlier this summer. U.S. Marshals say he also carjacked and beat a woman in her Lincoln Park garage just days before the attack near DePaul. DePaul officials say video cameras are an important security tool here at the university.
We have, between the two campuses, we have 1,200 cameras, so there's a lot of coverage on our exterior, and you can see a lot of things.
DePaul's Director of Public Safety, Bob Wachowski, says that having a personal plan in place and limiting traveling alone at night are most important in staying safe around campus.
Most of the issues that we do see around campus happen late night, usually when students are traveling alone. Take an Uber home if you have to. If you're stuck on campus alone, again, go back to that safety escort.
In early August, federal authorities located and arrested the suspect, Bramwell, just north of Houston, Texas. He had previously been arrested for home burglary and aggravated unlawful use of a weapon. He was released on parole for good behavior in March. Bramwell was extradited back to Chicago this September. Police recently formally charged him with attempted first-degree murder and kidnapping.
I'm glad he got charged on attempted murder. I think that's an appropriate thing to be charged on. I'm just a little bit more aware when I'm on campus than I used to be.
The victim was set to attend graduate school this fall, but those plans have been put on hold. Her family and friends remain hopeful and say that the road ahead is long, but it's a little bit brighter than it was a few weeks ago. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Jakob Emerson. To this day, Bubbly Creek remains an environmental quagmire for federal agencies and local activists. And what makes it bubble to this day is not pretty. From decomposing animal carcasses to oil spills, the creek is still plagued by waste. For a century, it's been mired in its own political muck, but that may finally be changing. Take a trip some 4.5 miles south of downtown, past the pristine Riverwalk, sightseeing boats, and water taxis, and you will discover the most notorious stretch of the Chicago River. This is Bubbly Creek today. And this was Bubbly Creek a century ago. A waterway so gross, a man could actually stand on floating layers of stockyard fat and bone without fear of falling into the depths below. More than a century later, Bubbly Creek still bubbles. The bubbling is a gaseous reminder of what is still decaying below. Margaret Frisbee, executive director of Friends of the Chicago River, chronicles the creek's unfortunate origins.
In the early 1860s, Chicago condensed all of the stockyards to Bubbly Creek. So it was this vast area of literally millions of cattle and pigs getting slaughtered yearly for over 100 years.
Other current pollutants include raw sewage from a city pumping station and oil from a spill in 2017, making matters even worse. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers estimates the cleanup will take $15.4 million. The The bureaucratic pitfall in this situation is to coordinate the work of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers with the mandate of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Congressman Dan Lipinski, whose district includes the creek, took on the task of untangling this overlap of federal agencies. In 2018, Lipinski asked the two agencies to devise a legal agreement to resolve sticky liability issues.
EPA says everything is fine right now at Bubbly Creek, and the Army Corps starts doing the restoration work, and there is pollution that is found, that the Army Corps will take the blame and have the liability.
Activists, meanwhile, aren't waiting for the federal government. They're already making a difference. In early May, hundreds of volunteers fanned out for the annual Chicago River Day cleanup. For citizens trying to restore the river, Bubbly Creek remains a metaphor for Chicago's fascinating, yet messy history. The Army Corps and EPA are expected to finalize their agreement to begin working together by this August. The process of capping the bottom is predicted to begin by 2023. From Bubbly Creek, I'm Jakob Emerson. It's been 25 years since the beloved sitcom Friends made its original debut on television. Now, the iconic orange couch is saying goodbye to Central Park and hello to Chicago. For nearly a decade, viewers across the world enjoyed 10 seasons and 236 episodes of Friends, a group of 6 navigating their late 20s together in New York City. There were catchphrases,
how you doing?
Inside jokes, marriages, breakups, and of course, the orange couch. Fans of the show in Chicago could be found last month at Maggie Daley Park and the top of the Willis Tower to see that very couch and reminisce about their favorite show. So how did a piece of furniture from a California studio make its way to cities across the world? Turns out, it's not the original couch. As part of a 25th anniversary promotion by NBC, 30 replicas were made to be shipped to all kinds of places, from the Grand Canyon to Stonehenge. Paul Booth is a DePaul Media and Cinema Studies professor.
I find this fascination with Friends, fascinating.
Booth says that the first season of Friends that premiered in 1994 didn't get much traction.
And you know Monica and Ross, and that's Phoebe, and that's Joey.
It wasn't until the second season the following year that fans were hooked.
But what Friends did is it really kind of mastered the genre, right? If you wanted a feel-good half hour with people who felt like your family, then you watched Friends. And so I think this kind of second realm of popularity it's had is really astounding.
For thousands of people around the world, Friends is a unifier. But there's no need to worry if you missed the couch here in Maggie Daley Park. Fans of the show can still make a trip to the original Central Park set at the Warner Brothers studio in Burbank, California. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Jakob Emerson.